Ohio. Turku, the city and the port located in the southwest of Finland at confluence of the Orejoki River with the archipelago Sea. Administrative center of the province of Varsinais-Suomi. Number of inhabitants for December 31, 2017, 189,669 people is the sixth in population city in Finland, and taking into account suburbs. For the end of 2017. The third city agglomeration. 303,492 persons. In the country after Helsinki and Tampere. The city is officially bilingual. Finnish as the basic is used by 87.7% of the population. Swedish is native for 5.3%. 2009. Turku is considered gate on the west, and the European E-highway connects it both with St. Petersburg and with Stockholm. In the city there is a large port making freight and passenger traffic with the Åland Islands and Sweden. The airport of Turku is the fifth largest and second in cargo transportation in Finland. Turku is known as the scientific and cultural center. Since the 13th century 2 schools worked here, and in 1640 the first university, Royal Academy of Åbo and the Finland's first printing house is founded. In 1772 in the city the Finland's first newspaper began to be issued. In 2011 Turku together with Tallinn has been elected the cultural capital of Europe. Now in the city about 50% of biotechnical production and nearly 60% of the diagnostic industry of the country are concentrated. Traditionally Turku is considered the Christmas city, where the main Christmas fir tree of the country is established and annually there takes place a large number of cultural actions. On polls in 2012 Turku took the second place on the level of attractiveness to accommodation among citizens of Finland, and on polls of 2013, residents were happiest with the residents among other citizens of the country. Etymology. The Swedish name of the city Åbo consists of two words. A. River. And bo. Live. And is translated as living along the river. Till 1917 in Russian the Latinizirvani optioned the name of the city as Åbo. For the first time the bishop Catillus used in 1270 in documents. And provinces respectively as Åbo-Björneborgski was used. The Finnish name Turku is etymologically connected with an old Russian terge. Now the bargaining come from the same Slavic source the name of the city Torgau in Germany and the Swedish word torg. All designated words mean the place of trade, the market. The valley between the Orejoki and Viequaiwoki River, the busy trade intersection which is made habitable by villagers, the place of crossing of water and overland tradeways. One of early certificates of it is burial of the Dorimski Iron Age to Hananite in Kuril. Archaeological finds of the Roman Iron Age become already more widespread. And Maria the big ancient pagan temple in Kirsimamiaki is studied, near Kuril of the city of Turku on hill Rastemiaki the pagan temple of the Vendelsky period is explored, here burn the dead. Other ancient cemeteries of times of Vikings and Crusades in Suramiaki in Maria and in Kirkamiaki Karina. There are assumptions that above thresholds Halanen on the Oriyuki current could live at the time of Crusades or at the beginning of the Middle Ages, the Novgorod merchants. This opinion is confirmed by the remaining Russian barrows in the valley of the Oriyuki River. Also Vikings built barrows. The word Turku, Old Slavic by origin and the beginning of the name of a part of the city of Paskunda, reminding according to linguists a word a churchyard could tell about bonds with Novgorodians too. But reliable archaeological or historical evidences about commercial relations with Novgorod in Oras Valley are not revealed. In 1155 the Swedish king Erik IX has made the first crusade to Finland. Together with the king in the country there has arrived the Catholic Bishop of Uppsala, presumably the Englishman, Heinrich, who has headed the missionary diocese in the province of Satakunta and Heim. Chronicles call Saint Heinrich the first bishop of Finland. According to a legend of Saint Heinrich in 1156 the Bishop Heinrich has been killed by Lali's pagan Finn, and his body is buried in Nusianen Church, 20 km from present Turku. According to the Russian authors of the 19th century, in 1191 Novgorodians together with Karelians have made a sea campaign to Finland against Swedes, on the territory of present Turku. Literally have taken yet not the educated city of Turku. In the Swedish chronicles and in the Novgorod chronicles about it there are no mentions. In 1216 the Pope in a decree recognized Erik Tonson as the King of Sweden and has given to him the right to appoint bishops to Finland. That meant full subordination of the missionary diocese in Satakunta and Hjälmapsalsby of an archiepiscopate and inclusion of Finland under full protectorate of Sweden. Historians carry the beginning of emergence of the city settlement of Turku by the time of a pontificate of the Pope Gregory IX, based on his letter, dated on January 23, 1229. In the text of the message of the pontiff is granted permission to transfer the residence of the Bishop of Abo to more suitable place. That probably meant transfer of department from Nusis to Korois, which is nowadays located slightly above on Oriyuki watercourse from the modern city center of Turkey. Due to the further retreat of the sea and shallowing of the harbour of Korois, not allowing Hanseatic merchants to rise on vessels to the centre, the city settlement in the 13th century has been transferred closer to the mouth of the river where the new harbour has been put, stone construction is begun, and configurations of the new city centre have acquired a certain structure. On ruins of Koroinen a church will erect a white bow cross now, and the territory is adjoined by two churches of the 14th century, Saint Maria and Saint Ekaterina. After 1250 in the city on hill Unicancare began to build the stone cathedral in this connection in 1286, after the death of the Bishop Catillus, have moved the residence of the bishop to the new place located near cathedral. The cathedral constructed in 1300 on the Oriyuki River bend has been consecrated by the Bishop of Turku to Mona. 1291-1308. The first mention of the name of the settlement in Latin belongs to 1270 when the Bishop of Obo Catillus specifies the name of inhabitants in the text of the document as Abunsis. After the Second Crusade of Swedes to Finland, about 1280 on the rocky island in the mouth of the Oriyuki River, construction of the Swedish military base allowing to control trade and ship traffic down the river has begun. Because of raising of sushi the island has connected to the continent eventually, and the former military strengthening has turned into Turku Castle on the Cape of Ani, in a zone of modern city port. has received the status of the city settlement of Turku in the 1290th years, but only after 1309 there is a document in which Abo is called actually city. Universitas Tuitatis Abonsis. Society of the City of Abo witnessed. From now on the press and a municipal coat of arms is known. In 1318 Novgorodians have completely burned the city, but after conclusion of peace of Abo began to build up again as the rights to live, be engaged in craft and to trade in this place tried to obtain numerous merchants. The town hall which is giving out the rights and the managing director of the city is mentioned the first time in 1324. In 1323 the Orikova peace which has established borders between the Novgorod earth and the Swedish kingdom has been made. Collisions with the Novgorod Republic have stopped. In this connection prosperity of the city has begun. The entry of Abo into the Hanseatic Union also belongs to this period. The city expanded spontaneously around the cathedral and the market square around which the German colonists have lodged. After a while city buildings have reached Maitiarvi, and in 1414 through the Oru River the first bridge has been built. In this connection the West Bank began to accustom. Further the city settlement expanded more ordered between Krupi and Sentry Mountain. The square of the medieval town made slightly more than 20 hectares. The residence of the bishop and the Dominican monastery did Abo Turku by religious and education center. The recovered trade and seaworthy ways existing in Turku have made the city the largest in Finland and one of the largest cities of the Swedish kingdom. In 1409 in Turku have begun to mint own money which differed on value from used in Sweden. Despite the Turku castle strengthened at the governor of Finland Karl Kunsson, the city several times was exposed to gains and robberies. The largest of them in 1509 and 1522 Danes have made. In the period of the Kalmar Union which has united Denmark, Sweden and Norway against Hansa Turku, as well as all Finland, became a strong point of Danes in fight for domination on Baltic. In 1523 the Turku castle occupied by Danes after a long siege has been taken by supporters of the new king of Sweden Gustaf I was. 1523-1560. Exile of foreigners from the Lapland Finland has turned out to be consequence of the so-called Stockholm bloodbath, when young Gustaf Vasa has headed a revolt against the last king of the Union Christian II, has overthrown it and has been proclaimed by the King of Sweden. At a general meeting of estates in 1527 the decision has been made that all church real estate is transferred to the possession of the Swedish crown, and the monarch becomes the head of church and from now on personally approves assignment of bishops. So Turku, as well as all Finland and Sweden, have suspended relations with Catholic Church. The undertaken religious reform which has become result not of enthusiastic perception of the new doctrine, and tough race for power has considerably changed political and cultural life of Turku as main town of Finland. Petras Tsiarkalaki became the first preacher of new Lutheran dogma, evangelism in Turku. The huge role reformations was played by the Bishop of Turku Mikael Agricola, called later the father of Phoenician literature. Agricola has begun process of conversion of the Bible into Finnish in Wittenberg where he studied under the leadership of Martin Luther. The New Testament has been published in 1548 and the ABS book is printed even earlier. In Turku Agricola was director of cathedral school and the canon, and since 1550 the bishop. The bulk of the Old Testament is translated to them into Finnish and church breviaries are published. Emergence of the Book of Bible Prayers, a masterpiece of literary creativity of the Swedish kingdom of the 16th century, became the most considerable event. Mikael Agricola has taken a dialect of Turku as a basis of literary Finnish. Besides, the text has been added to words and sayings from other Finnish adverbs. The Finnish literature was for Mikael Agricola business of all his life, and he has published the bulk of the works on own means. Due to the administrative reform undertaken by the King of Sweden Gustav Vasa, the succession to the throne became patrimonial, and the eldest son of the monarch, Erik, has been declared the crown prince. Younger sons have received titles of dukes. In this connection, at the head of the Finnish duchy there was 19-year-old Håkon. The period of its board from 1556 to 1563 is the most fruitful and quiet in the history of the city. Wishing to live according to the new status, the young duke has subjected to reorganization Turku Castle, which has taken a form of the Palace of Renaissance. The effect with Katarina Jagiellońska, the sister of the Polish king, Håkon III, is connected with the old princely family Jagiellonov. On Christmas Eve 1562 the Duchess has arrived to Turku with a rich dowry and suite of servants. In this connection the festival continued 2 days. With the arrival of the Duchess to Turku, mode on the Polish-Italian palace culture has appeared. Court consisted of the Swedish, German, Polish and Finnish aristocrats, and at daily meals there were more than 600 people. The ducal couple used for hunting the palace forest park in Ruissalo, where till this moment in the valley Katarina showed a stone according to the legend used as a table by a ducal couple. His standard of living of handicraftsmen in Turku has considerably grown thanks to orders of crown persons and their environments, and the Finnish servants very much loved the duke, who could speak easy with ordinary people in Finnish. Ambitious Håkon III dreamed of the state into which, except Finland, also the part of the Baltic lands would enter. The brother Håkon, who has come to the Swedish throne as Erik XIV, has launched war with Poland, and having sent troops to Turku has captivated the brother, having grounded in the Swedish prison Gripskoma. Katarina Jagiellonska, in response to freedom offered her, has pointed to a wedding ring where Donec mors nos separat has been in Latin written. So far death will not separate us. And has followed in conclusion the spouse. In 1568 the King Erik XIV contracted marriage with the native of Finland Katarina Månsdotter. She was a daughter of the ordinary corporal of the Måns, the peasant from the village of Madalpada, who has served then to a captain's rank. When the girl was 13 years old, she is so struck with the beauty the king, who has met her in the Turku market where she sold nuts, that it has taken it in the palace, has given fine education, and has made the court lady of the sister Elizabeth. Soon Katharina has become Erik's favorite, and her former groom is the ensign Maximilian, who has come to say goodbye to the bride, has been killed by order of Erik XIV, suffering from suspiciousness. In 1568 during the noble revolt Erik XIV has been overthrown by the brother Håkon III and Zatochian in the Stockholm castle. In August 1569 Erik's adherents have organized a plot for the purpose of its release. In this connection Erik has been transported in Turku and is concluded in a bosky fortress. In 1571 Erik and his spouse Katarina were transported to Kastelkolm and then to Gripsholm. In 1573 the couple was separated. Eric was sent to prison in Westeros where he has died in February 1577. Modern opening has shown that the king was poisoned with arsenic. And Katharina together with children was returned in Turku where she since 1581 owned the estate in Luxiel and also 3 other estates. Katharina Mon's daughter in 1612 has died and she is buried in a tomb of the Cathedral of Turku. In the period of government of the King Yukon III, Finland has received the status of the Great Duchy, having turned from the Swedish province to the certain area of the kingdom, having received the coat of arms with the main symbol, the lion keeping a direct sword of the western type in a claw and trampling paws on curved east sword. Creation Yekini Institute of the Representative Power, meeting of 4 estates, the noblemen, clergy, burghers and peasants who were called initially as a meeting of misters, and from the second half of the 16th century who have received the name Riksdag, became the second innovation. During the Russian-Swedish War of 1590-1595 the Russian troops have approached Turku, but could not take the city. The end of the 16th century has ended for Turku with bloody events. When the son of the King Yukon III Catholic Sigismund III succeeded to the Swedish throne, it was opposed by his uncle, the third son of Gustav I Vasa, Charles IX. At this time the Marshal Claes Fleming was a deputy in Turku and Finland. In 1597 at walls of a Boski fortress fight in which Claes Fleming has reserved fortress has run high. In 1599 the siege of fortress has repeated. During a siege Claes Fleming has died, and his widow Abba Stendak has rejected capitulation. Fortress nevertheless has been handed over by treachery. Since the beginning of the 17th century of Turku became the administrative center of Finland, a residence of the Swedish Governor-General and head of the Finnish Lutheran Church. In 1624 in Turku there was a Finland's first professional organization which has united city shoemakers. The Governor-General Count Pertu Braga Younger was one of the most significant figures in the 17th century for Turku. It has arrived in Turku in 1637 and on its initiative the master plot plan of development of the city with the wide streets framed with houses in Baroque style has been developed. Citizens of East, great half of the city persistently resisted changes, but in a small, western part of the city, near Anninkainen the plan has been carried up. There were new streets, Anninkaistenkatu, Pirkankatu and Kunninkatutet. It is called in honor of the young Swedish Queen Christina. In 1628 the King of Sweden Gustav II Adolf has founded in the city a gymnasium which since 1642 Braga has been transformed by efforts of the Count Pertu. The University, Royal Academy of Odo where officials began to study and priests for Finland. Before they were trained abroad, in particular in Paris. On July 15, 1640 the university has been solemnly opened, and Per Brack is elected as the first chancellor. The university trained doctors, priests, lawyers, teachers of ethics, history, oratory, natural study, mathematics, physics, botany, Hebrew and Greek languages. In 1642 at the university the Finland's first printing house has been opened and there has begun work the first bookstore. In a year of opening of the university in it 249 students have registered, and in the next years arrived on 100. In 1713 during Great Northern War Piat I has begun military operations in Finland and on August 28 the Russian troops under the command of Peter I and the General Admiral Count Fyodor Apraksin have occupied the capital of Finland of Turku. This period is noted in the history as great hard times for the civilian population. Troops remained in the city up to the end of war in 1721 and signings of the Nystatsky World. During the Russian-Swedish War event begun with Sweden in 1741-1743, the Russian troops under the command of the Count Jakov Bruce on September 8, 1742 have occupied Turku. In the city there was a residence of the Russian Governor-General. After the conclusion of the Oborsky World, which has ended war, the city has been returned to Sweden again, though at Sweden it was not necessary to protect forces anymore. The Finnish Principality and accession it to the Russian Empire was only a matter of time. In the 1758 years the population of Turku made about 6,000 people. In the city the shipbuilding. In 1741 the new shipyard has been developed, the Bank and Credit and Registration Office are founded. In the 1790th years there were city economic and musical societies, theatrical company. In February 1808 Russia and Sweden have begun the Russian-Swedish War again, and already 10 on March 22. 1808 troops of the General Dmitry Shepilov have occupied Turku. Under the Fridrikshamsky Peace Treaty signed in 1809, Finland has departed to Russia under the official name of the Grand Duchy. The Emperor Alexander I, who has accepted a title of the Grand Duke Finnish, guaranteed preservation in the country of its former laws and activity of legislature, diet. Åbo was the capital of the Grand Duchy Finnish in 1809-1812. The city has entered the period of quiet development. During the period from 1802 to 1815 near the cathedral on the project of the Stockholm architect Carl Geierveld, a new building of Royal Academy has been built. Completed the construction, the architect Carlo Bassi. In 1810-1811 on the river bank of Orajoki on Project K. Bassi has built the two-storied building of Public Club. In 1814 from Ravel the German architect Carl Ludwig Engel, little known during this period, who very quickly becomes one of significant figures of cultural life. Both the city and all Finland moves to Turku. On its project in Turku in 1815-1818 the observatory building has been built. The aspiration of the Russian Empire to make the Grand Duchy Finnish more independent of Sweden assumed change of the capital status of Turku. In this regard, transfer of the capital to Helsingfors has been predetermined. In 1812 in Helsingfors intensive construction has begun, the decree of the Emperor Alexander I, and in 1817 the Finnish Senate has been already translated there. After this Turku became the provincial city of the Obo-Nyborgsky province. It was termination of a branch of the Finnish railroad to Turku and also remained the place of stay of the governor, head of Evangelic and Lutheran Church, foreign consuls and trial chamber. Offered since 1623. The devastating fire raging in the city from 4 for September 5, 1827 almost completely has destroyed all buildings. About 5,000 buildings and a large number of inhabitants were killed in fire. After the fire, the city has been built up according to the new plan, which development was carried out in 1828 by the architect Carl Engel using the Fixazione plan of 1808 implemented by Dilberg. City suburbs have extended to Lillhäkkilä at this time, Kapis, Kaarina and Sturhäkkilä. Also after the fire the university has been transferred to Helsingfors. In 1829 the chief city architect is appointed Yakun Julik Lane, and in the city architecture by Bennerqvist K. Janssen and K.F. Beck building in style of the Russian Empire style also worked. In 1851 in Turku the steam frigate Rurik constructed for naval crew of the Grand Duchy Finnish has been floated. According to 1880 the population of the city was made Finns -53.6%, Swedes -41.9%. The general population of the city at the end of the 19th century about 23.7 thousand inhabitants. Flopkapridalny, tobacco factories, engineering plant, shipbuilding plant Kritona with 3 sheds and other shipyards worked. In 1907 about 490 factories and the plants, over 8.2 thousand workers. Over 460 trading companies, office of the Finnish Bank worked. There were 35 educational institutions, including 6 lyceums, women's schools, commercial institute. At Economic Society the constant exhibition of products of the Finnish industry worked. Independent Finland. In the civil war of Turku which has begun soon after finding of independence by Finland was, as well as all large cities in hands, red. War however was rapid, and to spring of 1918 red have receded from the city. In 1918 the Shvedoyazyczny Academy of Åbo University and the Finnoyazyczny University of Turku have been recreated. In 1932 in Turku on a shipyard Kraton Vulcan has been floated the Vainio-Mainen battleship. In the years of Winter War and the Soviet-Finnish War of 1941-1944 the city has suffered from bombings of the USA. Also Turku Castle has suffered, and its vicinities in the region of Marti have almost completely razed to the ground. During Winter War the Soviet Union has dropped about 4,000 bombs because of which over 600 buildings were damaged on Turku. 52 persons have died from bombings and 151 has been wounded. Turku was the most bombarded city, the second after Viborg. After completion of war the President and the Commander-in-Chief of Finland Gustav Mannerheim had an idea to transfer the capital from Helsinki to Turku as after the conclusion of the Muscat Truce in 1944 Finland has been obliged to provide the USA to rent instead of the Cape Hanka the peninsula of Portala with vicinities that to only 17 came from Helsinki. On June 25, 2013, in honor of the 60th anniversary of establishment of twinning bonds between Turku and St. Petersburg, the city accompanied by the President of Finland Sauli Niinisto was visited by the President of Russia Vladimir Putin who has unveiled a plaque on the square in front of the Museum for Marinum and has been awarded an honorable medal from the mayor of Turku, Alexei Randala. Turku is on the southwest tip of Finland, in the mouth of the Orijoki River at its confluence with the Archipelagovi Sea. The total area of the city for 2011 makes 306.37 km, from which 245.67 km. The land 57.24 km boroughs. Sea surface, and 3.46 km. Internal reservoirs. Turku, as well as all Finland, is in the time zone designated according to the international standard as Eastern European Time. EET. Shift concerning youths is +200. Winter time. /+300. Summertime. Is transition to summertime works in this time zone. According to 1880, the population of the city was made Finns -53.6%, Swedes -41.9%. The general population of the city at the end of the 19th century about 23.7 thousand inhabitants. In 2009 finishes the basic was used by 87.7% of residents of Turku, and Swedish is native for 5.3% of the population. Other national groups are provided by various unions and societies. The Russian Club works. In 2009 Society of Ukrainians in Finland is registered. The Orioki River, one of the largest in Finland, divides the city into two parts, northern and southern. Coast connect 7 bridges. In the lower watercourse, there where the bridge would prevent navigation, the crossing of pedestrians and cyclists is carried out by the free ferry. The city is divided into 9 districts which consist of smaller territorial units areas. In total then there is 134. Central Federal District. District of Hirvensalukakskirta. District of Skansi-Utomo. District of Itiakari-Uvrishio. District of Karoinen. District Tamparintai. District Kuninkoa. District of Pansiuyerkialia. District of Mariapotanen. Economy. Around Kapita, the center of high technologies, science and technology park of Turku works. In the west of the city there is a shipyard building the international cruise liners. In 2014 the Finnish state and the German shipbuilding company Meyer Werft have made the decision on purchase of a shipyard from St. C. Europe concern. Opposite to a shipyard the oil processing plant is located. The port of Turku is the oldest in Finland. It is mentioned by the Arab geographer Al-Idrisi in 1154 in the book Kitab-Rudyar. The port is located on the bank of the Archipelagovi Sea to the west from the downtown. Through port passes over 4 million tons of freights and over 4 million passengers a year. Port only in the country for acceptance of railway ferries. Tourism is one of important components of city economy. However, in 2014 in connection with crisis in Ukraine, considerable recession. 32% of visits of the city by tourists from Russia has been noted. Turku, the large transport hub of Finland. In the city automobile and railway lines are crossed, there are large sea and river ports and also the airport. Automobile. Basis of a highway network is Highway 18, the leader through port to Sweden and Norway, and in Finland along a route. Turku, Helsinki, Kotka. And further to St. Petersburg. In 2013 the European Union has approved the project assuming financing of development of commercial and business activity along the route. Other E63 highway connects. Turku, Tampere, Jyväskylä, Kuopio. One more route OA connects. To the Turk, Rauma, Pori, Vasa, Kokkola, Rakkailu, Kymi, Tornio, Tromsø. Old Krolovskaya Road runs along a route of Turku, Heimaminena, Viborg. With the neighboring areas, the city is connected by the Belt Road 40 and the Road of Turku. Construction of new highways became a part of the general plan of Turku 2000. The Belt Road across Turku is partially put into operation. The local plan of Helsingin-Kotu, which will allow to build the new bridge through the Ouru River between Hyvinkää and Aninkisten-Silta, is implemented. After completion of construction, cargo transport will go to around of the center. Urban Turku public transport, the bus. The organization of routes and control of an urban transport is exercised of Bureau of Turku Public Transport, located on the floor space. The bus network developed, the schedule of the movement is observed. The main grade crossing elimination structure in the city, the floor space, where practically all buses come. The feature of the movement of buses in Turku: absence of ring routes, all buses is reached to the floor space where change is made. The ticket costs €3. It works within 2 hours and allows to make trips on different bus routes. The cost of the daily ticket for 24 hours -€7. There is a system of discounts and fully smartphones application. The tram functioned in Turku in 1908-1972. Development of rail transport is in the future provided. Out of the downtown, the network of paths for cyclists and pedestrians is developed. However, in city chessboard, their device causes certain difficulties. Paths for light transport are laid mainly in green zones. Long distance. In the central part of the city there is a bus station, from which intercity buses go. Daily the international bus to St. Petersburg through Helsinki goes. Payment of journey is carried out as at bus station, and directly at the driver, at a cashier working at the line. The passenger calls to the driver the place of the following are stops. Upon purchase of the return ticket, the discount is allowed. The return ticket works within 30 calendar days. Since June 4, 2012, the low-cost bus company Onibus from the city of Raisio has obtained the license for implementation of transportations along Raisio's route Turku-Helsinki. Since February 2015, on a route of Turku-Helsinki will act also the company a bus low-cost airline. The railway station of Turku, the large transport hub located near the historic center and connecting the city to all largest settlements of Finland. Operation is carried out by the Ver company, which has declared closing in 2015 of railway depot. The passenger trains coming to the railway station of Turku from other cities go further to the port of Turku, 2 ferries to Stockholm. At the end of 1995, the branch line of Turku-Helsinki has been electrified for the movement of high-speed trains. In 2016, consideration of a question of construction of the experimental site of vacuum trains along a route of Turku-Fat has begun. Hyperloop assumes the movement by means of a magnetic levitation in pipes in a vacuum or strongly allied air. The lack of air resistance and friction will allow to move with a speed more than 1000 km/h. By the high-speed railroad from Helsinki it would be possible to reach Stockholm in 28 minutes. C. From the port of Turku. Ferries daily go to Stockholm. 265 km. 9.5 hours of the course. And also to Mariehamn and Långnäs. Islands. The airport of Turku is in 8 km to the north of the central part of the city. To the airport from the floor space bus no. 1 goes. Except domestic flights to Stockholm, Copenhagen, Riga and Gdansk are made. For expansion of the building of the management of air transport, airport has made the project which gives the chance to increase the volume of new construction according to the new general plan of the city. 2000. Newspapers. The daily newspaper founded in 1904 in Finnish of Turun Sanomat, for the end of 2011 had a circulation of 103,314 copies. The second most important edition is the newspaper in Swedish, Obo under Telsa. Cult buildings. In the ancient Lutheran cathedral. Choruses with an altar image of the Swedish painter Vestin and Ackman's frescoes, gravestone chapels of the famous figures with pictures on Vladimir Sverchkov's glass, the magnificent sarcophagus of the Swedish Queen Katharina Monsdotter which is also built in 1865. 1612. Small but original on architecture, and the Orthodox Alexandrovsky church trimmed inside is decorated with icons of work of the Finnish artist Bernd Gudendam. In Turku and its vicinities there is a number of the museums having national value for Finland. In 2009 the most known of them were visited by 707,624 persons. The architecture of Turku of the 18-20 centuries is provided by Classicism, National Romanticism and the Finnish Functionalism. The university building, then the governor's house, remarkable the hall with 6 high reliefs of the Swedish sculptor Cambric. Areas. In a master plot plan of Turku the architect Carl Engel has planned construction of 8 areas, however, only a part of this project has been carried out. The events held in Turku. In 2003, 2009 and 2010 the International Regatta of the Sailing Ships, the Tall Ships races came into the city. On the island of Rusalo annually the Rusrock Rock Festival is held in the summer. In 2010 he has celebrated the 40th anniversary. In the summer the event of Dattel. A festival in the downtown with participation of eminent contractors is held. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.